Good evening, D. Marie Gen X, you fantastic person, and Priv Carol. Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is you guys are watching. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, the United States are locked and loaded. They're locked and loaded, and they are going to have a swizzle in Iran. That's what Donald Trump's saying. These are not my words. And the United States are saying if the Iranians don't play ball, that the United States are going to come to the rescue. Look, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be focusing on Iran. I'm going to be giving you guys the situation on the ground as we know it now. And look, this is a fluid situation, so I will keep up. Excuse me. I will keep updating this, but it is a dynamic situation, right? What's happening in Iran right now? There's protests all over the place. Donald Trump saying they're going to go and rescue the Iranian protesters. Is anyone going to rescue the British protesters that are getting arrested? I don't know. I would hope so. So that's what we're focusing on today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not done so already, before we start, can you please do me a real big favor? Like, comment, subscribe, share. All the buttons down there. You guys on TikTok, like the buttons up there. I am like triple streaming or maybe quadruple streaming. Look, let me just get on with this, right? Okay, let me just get on with this, okay? Because we are talking about the situation in Iran. As always, I'm going to give my opening monologue. And then I will close you guys down on TikTok, and I will just be streaming on YouTube. The Real Raven one on YouTube and the Real Raven one on X as well. So, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, let's just start, okay? The situation in Iran is escalating and spiraling out of control. I'm going to give more granularization of this once I've done my opening monologue, and I will come back to various points. But let me just get the framework. I'll then give you guys the strategic options, and then I'll get some of the chat, and then we'll come back to it. So first off, let's talk about the spark. So Iran is in the grips of the biggest wave of protests in 3 years, kicking off, I think it was around like the 29th of December, right in the heart of Tehran, which started as shopkeepers and market merchants furious over skyrocketing inflation. We're talking over 40% and a currency that has absolutely tanked. It really has. You know, the Iranian rial has absolutely plunged to record lows. These protests have ballooned into something much bigger. Now, do you know what? I'm going to give granularization as we move forwards. So when these protests start, like protests in the United Kingdom, like protests in America, like Black Lives Matter, like Just Stop Oil, like Extinction Rebellion, anything, our adversaries, their adversaries, adversarial nations will fan those flames online with social media, and they will be pumping propaganda. That's the nature of the game. Everybody does it, all right? So I don't want to say anybody's worse or better than somebody else, and certainly nobody can stand on their soapbox and say I'm holier than thou, except from me, because I am. So sanctions from the West, compounded by last year's airstrikes from Israel and the United States targeting Iran's nuclear sites and military bases, have absolutely hammered the economy. People are chanting against the regime, demanding economic justice, and in some spots, even broader political change. This isn't new. Remember in fact, it wasn't last year, was it? It was 22 to 23, the uprising after the death of Masha Amini. However, this time it's rooted in bread and butter issues, jobs, prices, and governments accused of funneling cash into proxies like Hezbollah, Hamas, and instead of fixing problems at home. Let's just think about this, guys, all right? You know, the Iranians are complaining that the government they're accusing that the government are funneling cash into proxies. Like here in the United Kingdom, they just do that blatantly. It's called military aid. Now, I'm going to give you guys the body count because reports are coming in fast. And by the time you guys are watching this live stream, you know, you might be watching it tomorrow or the day after. This may have already changed. But as of recording this on the 2nd of, it's not November, on the 2nd of January, 2026, man, it's a lot. These years are flying by. On the 2nd of January, 2026, the body count, as I can find on open source media, the body count is at least 8 people have been killed so far. Now, clashes have they've been all over the place. Protesters have been, now what I'm reading is that some protesters have been shot with live ammo, which would mean that some protesters may have died with baton rounds, basically. Now, for those of you guys who think that baton rounds are not lethal, I'm talking about the plastic bullets. They're about, I don't know, I'd say they're about maybe 4 to 6 inch and about 1 inch wide. You get hit in the head one of those things, it's game over for you guys. It's absolutely game over. So if some people are reading these articles and they're trying to think, oh, what's happening there? Oh, these guys are saying they're using non-lethal ammunition, and these guys are saying that, you know, they're getting unalived by it, then that's why. You can absolutely, if one of those baton rounds hits you in the noggin, it's game over for you. And another thing, if there's bad guys standing behind a truck or something taking cover, you can get that. You can get, if you fire that baton round, you can get it to skim off the ground, go underneath the truck, and hit them in the Twizzlers. You can get them to hit them in the Twizzlers. Obviously, I wouldn't know about that. I've never done that myself. That sort of stuff is illegal. You're not allowed to do it. I saw it on. I saw it on a YouTube video that somebody else was talking about, okay? So I've never done that. I've never done that in my time in Northern Ireland, ever. I'm just putting it out there. I've never done that, okay? But the reason I'm saying that is if some people are getting confused by, oh, they're using non-lethal ammunition. There really is no such thing as non-lethal ammunition. If you get hit in the head with a baton round, it's game over. It really is. It's absolutely game over. There are groups out there and they are documenting arrests, they're documenting injuries, they're documenting gunfire. The Iranian regime has cracked down before, but this time they are treading really carefully. They absolutely are. The president even called the grievances legitimate while urging calm. Now, this happens in the United Kingdom as well. For example, you know when people are rioting and protesting and Keir Starmer comes up and says, I understand what the public say, and we are going to smash the gangs. It's just hot air. It doesn't mean anything. You know, the actions speak louder than words, and politicians are very good at giving words. They're not very good at doing stuff. There are internet restrictions out there in Iran. It's very difficult to get an accurate ground truth and situation on the ground because of those internet restrictions. Now, enter Trump, enter DJT, enter good old DJT. So in a late night post on his Truth Social, because of course it's Trump, he straight up warned Iran's authorities not to kill peaceful protesters, saying, I quote, I'll show you this in a minute. I'll show you now. I'll show you in a minute. Saying the United States will come to their rescue. He added, in classic Trump flair, we're locked and loaded and we're ready to go. But he kept the details vague. This isn't his first rodeo. Back in 2020, he tweeted similar warnings in Farsi during protests after Soleimani's assassination. But now, in his second term, you know, it's got real teeth, especially after those 2025 airstrikes. Iran's response, fire is expected. Senior advisors have shot back and told Trump to be careful about intervening, warning it could unleash chaos across the Middle East. I think that's inevitable. I really do. I think it's absolute. I think the chaos that's coming across the Middle East is absolutely, and I don't think you can get around it. I really don't. I think it's coming. And it's funny, actually, because when I was searching online for this, one of my old videos popped up. Literally, one of my old videos popped up from maybe 2023 saying, all roads are leading to a Trump war in Iran. I don't even think Trump was in power then, but that's what I've been saying all along. Even when Trump wasn't in power, I was like, yeah, as soon as Trump gets elected, they're having a war in Iran. Anyway, look, guys, I've got a lot to get through tonight. So let me continue this next bit, and then I will jump onto the chat, and then I will close you guys down on TikTok, and then I will continue. All right, then I will continue. Yes, I will. Right, so let's talk strategy. Because if this rhetoric turns kinetic, and it often does, geography matters. I keep saying this. You know, when people say to me, like, oh, Sean, the United States is finished. I'm like, definitely not. Like, definitely not. Like, not even in a, like, not a chance. Like, the United States is going to be the leader of the world for the next 100 years, at least. At least. You know, the United States know this. That's why they're expanding. So, geography matters, all right? Iran's a fortress. You've got mountains to the north and the west, deserts everywhere else. Any large-scale US operation to rescue or support protesters, so think like a regime change or a major intervention, would have to come from the sea. And look, guys, I'm not jumping on a bandwagon. I've been saying this from day one, week one. That's the only place you can only get to Iran by the sea. There's no other option. And I will explore that a little bit further on. So let's just, I am talking about Iran today, but what I want to do, just as a quick side quest, a quick opening monologue side quest, I want to talk about why I know there's going to be no ceasefire agreement in Ukraine. Because there's nothing on the ground, right? There's nothing on the ground. There's no ocean. There's no mountain ranges. Literally, where the Russians are now, there's nothing. It's open countryside. You never have a boundary in open countryside because it just doesn't work. All right. So where is Iran? Mountains to the north and west. Try getting tanks over mountains, guys. It's not going to work. You've got big deserts, you know, it's just not going to work, all right? So any invasion of Iran comes from the sea. Hitting the south coast along the Persian Gulf or the Strait of Hormuz really is like the only option, and the options are limited. Potentially ports like Bandar Abbas are key, but these ports are heavily defended. So can you guys remember back in was it October 2023? I think it was October 2023. You know, when the drones, can you guys remember the drones over New Jersey? Oh, it's UFOs! It's aliens! It's aliens! Literally, trust me, probably above most people in the world wanted that to be aliens. After about 30 seconds, I said, no, that's not drone, that they're not aliens. I said they're US military. They're using the Starlink communication system. They're using the Starlink satellite. They're using Starlink satellites to communicate with their drones. And they are operating from, I think it's Northrop Grumman's Manta Ray, Sea Manta or Manta Ray, you know, UAV. That's what I said straight away after about 30. It took me longer to find a credible video. It did. It took me longer to find a credible video. And I said, this is what you're going to see on the south coast of Iran when they invade it. They're going to send those sea manta rays in. They're going to release the drones from the sea. Those drones are going to go and do their drone stuff on the south coast. They're going to go and return back to that, return back to those submersible drones, and then they're going to sail off. They're going to get refurbished, and that's what the initial phases are going to be. Anyway, the initial phases of that coastline assault. Anyway, so yes, the United States do have a huge airborne capability. You know, there's paratroopers, special forces, air assets from carriers or bases in the Gulf states that can be deployed at short notice. And listen, guys, I'll be quite honest with you. I am absolutely biased by going with the airborne option. You know, I will like, look, if I was planning a military operation, it's cooler, right? There's nothing more badass than flying in a C-130. What do they use now? The A400, is it A400? The Airbus whatever they use. C-17. There is absolutely nothing in the world as badass as flying low level in a military transport aircraft supported by AC-130s, Spectre gunships, FA-18s, stealth aircraft, B-2 bombers. Nothing is as badass as that in your entire life. Doesn't matter who you are and how much money you've earned in your life. For those guys on the back of that airplane, they will always be more badass than you can ever consider. Does not matter. Flat down, take it to the candy shop, take it to the bank, because they'll have you spending all you've got. Doesn't matter how many football games you've played, how many caps you've got for your country, how hard you've kicked that football, how far you can throw it, how fast you've drove in your car, how many people you've knocked out in the boxing ring. None of that matters, because nothing on this world is as badass as flying low level in the back of an aircraft over an enemy country, about to jump out and deal death and destruction. Absolutely nothing. Nothing's that badass, guys. It is. That is. Anyway, that's not going to be that is not going to be the option. It may be one of the options. All right. What I'm talking about here is for a long, full-blown campaign. Boots on the ground, sustained operations, you need logistics. I'm talking about tanks, I'm talking about fuel, I'm talking about food, I'm talking about ammunition, I'm talking about water, I'm talking about life support. You need to supply these people. That's the Navy's territory. Nobody else, you can't do that by the air, right? So we're talking about amphibious assault carrier groups. We're talking about sea lift from the 5th carrier group or whatever they're called. It's the only way to move that amount of kit and equipment. It's the only way to get that weight, that tonnage in country. What are the other options? You're going to go over land through Iraq? Yeah, good luck with that. Literally, seriously, guys, good luck with that. You're going to be fighting your way through Iraq. Overland through Afghanistan, again, absolutely good luck with that. You're going to be fighting your way through Afghanistan. It's not going to happen. Never going to happen. Air alone can't sustain a long-term campaign. That is the reality, guys. Okay. So when we talk about Iran, when we talk about what's happening, the only direction of travel, if there's going to be boots on the ground, if the United States are locked and loaded, if they're going to go in and have take these guys to the candy shop, the only way for a sustained conflict in the Middle East, it really is, guys, it's the naval option. There's nothing else. Yes, of course, you can have limited special forces operations, but that's not really going to have that regime change or when that mission creep happens. Of course, they may start with some airborne operations and then have to reinforce them by the sea. Right? I'm gonna let this person. I'm gonna have to accept this person here. If somebody's on TikTok, I'm accepting them. Who's this person on TikTok? I've just accepted them. They've gone. Somebody's popped up on TikTok. They're not. Oh look, hello mate. Somebody's popped up on TikTok. Who is he? Right, that's where I'm going on that. Right, listen, guys, you guys on TikTok, I'm going to close you guys down now in a second. If you want to follow me, which I assume you do, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. I'm going to be closing you guys down now, but let me jump over here first and get some. Let me get some of these comments. Hello everyone on YouTube. Right, let me jump up. Silly Gallardi is saying, Galloway, don't underestimate Iran. Missiles, they had a few good hits, even with our incredible air defenses. He's gone. The guy on TikTok wanted to join me. He's gone now. Right, Silly Gallardi, who's in Israel, is saying, don't underestimate Iran. Yeah, look, people underestimate... if you underestimate your foes, it's not. In fact, actually, let me turn you guys off. Right, you guys on TikTok, I'm going to close you guys down now. You've been fantastic. You've been beautiful. Make sure you like and follow as well. I don't know who that guy was. I'm going to jump over now. I'm just going to be streaming on YouTube. I'll probably be here for maybe an hour or something, and then I'll be closing those guys down again. If I don't see you later, if I don't see you on YouTube, that's fine. I'll be back on tomorrow morning, and I bid you good mid-evening or whatever it is, and wrap up because it's cold. Are they off? I think they're off. Yes, they're off. Right, they're off. They are off. Yeah. The Iranians. You see, it's what we've got to. So obviously, the Iranians are allied with the Russians, and the Russians are using what I would say is the Iranian drone capability is pretty substantial. It really is. It's pretty substantial, and they are, it's pretty substantial, and it's being developed in real time in Ukraine, right? So whereas I don't think you're going to see Russian involvement in. I don't think you're going to see any Russian involvement in Iran. Well, look, guys, we talk about a hypothetical situation that may or may not happen, and I think it will happen, but at this point, it is hypothetical. A lot of information that has been gained on a lot of information that's been gained on the battlefield in Ukraine will be replicated, that will be transmitted, that will be communicated to the Iranians. So they will have the ability now to look how to attack, how to evade, and how to counter Western technology. James is saying, apparently Iran does have missiles that can reach far out into the sea. US aircraft carriers had to seriously keep their distance. Yeah, but the Norfolk... Okay, Right, James. Look, guys, can everybody cast their minds back? Can you cast your minds back to 20... I think it was October. I'm going to say it was October. It was October 2023, right? Can you remember when all those drones and people were saying that it was aliens, and I can remember seeing this woman and like her video absolutely ballooned on X because they were saying, she was like talking, like if you've ever used if you've ever used like a telescope or something, or a long range optics, if you zoom in on a light, it will shimmer. It does. If you zoom in on a star or something, it shimmers and it looks weird, right? It looks like it's changing. And I can remember watching this video on, I think it was on X, definitely on X. And this woman, she was saying, she's talking to this light and she's saying, do you know, baby, do you know Jesus? And I'm thinking, wow, are you actually talking to a light through a camera and recording it? And she said, oh, you do, and like this video ballooned. Listen, and clearly there's no correlation between Elon Musk's brother owning a drone company and the drones that were spotted over and Elon owning a communications company, and there's clearly no collaboration going between those two. Did he drag the barrel out for pause? It was laughing when he drags that. I don't know what that means. Sean, hope you got a carbon monoxide monitor. No, I don't have listen, guys, okay? I've got this on here, right? Because it's absolutely freezing in here, right? It's absolutely freezing in here. I'm in a half-finished extension, right? It's well ventilated, right? We're well ventilated in here. I don't sleep in here. This is not, I'm in like an outbuilding from the house. I'm not in the main house. So no fumes can get in the house from here. It's really warm. It's really warm. It is really warm. Right, let me jump down. Sean, your drinks barrel. What does that mean? My drinks barrel? I don't know. Your barrel of beer. There's no beer there. There's no beer. My barrels are on the other side. I know of a woman who thinks a shadow in her garden is an alien. Look, maybe it is. I don't know. Eyeball Paul is saying, nice shed, Sean. It is. Essentially, it's my shed. Essentially, this is my shed. Anyway, look, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to business. Let's get back to business, okay? Let's get back on track, okay? Iran, the United States are saying they're locked and loaded to Iran, and Iran. Well, do you know what? Let me share exactly what Donald Trump said with you guys. So Donald Trump has said, and just for context, guys, can you see there? The Real Raven 1. I actually found some of my old videos when I was researching this, right? So this is a video. Can you guys see that? I don't know if you guys can see that, right? That's a video that I posted on September the 28th, 2024. Literally, I posted this video on, I don't know if you guys can see that actually with the perspective, but that's a video I posted, and it says, and you guys can go check it on my X, September the 28th, 2024. I've just said, remember, because everybody, I think people were talking about Iraq at the time. I said, listen, remember everybody, Trump will invade Iran. All paths lead to war, global conflict on an industrial scale. So I'm not flim-flammering, right? I'm not jumping around and saying different things. I've always said that the United States are going to have their war with. I've always said that. Right. Let's see what Donald Trump's saying though. Did he really write shots instead of shoots? Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna call him out. It's Donald Trump because he listen, my spelling's not the best. Donald Trump is saying if Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I don't know. Is there something subliminal there? It seems like there's something subliminal. Is there any conspiracy theorists out there? Is there something in here? If Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, is there a non-violent way to shoot someone? Can you I don't know, can you non-violently shoot someone? If Iran shots, is that an anagram? Is there anything else? I don't know. Look, sorry guys, I'm looking too far into it. Right, let's go with the mainstream are saying, right? Let's go with the mainstream are saying. So this is what Donald Trump's been saying. He's saying the United States will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. So the only option, literally, like the only option for this, if the United States want to go in there, the only option is a naval option. Look, guys, I will always favor the airborne option because it's cooler. Always go with the coolest thing first, right? You know, nobody ever goes with the nerdiest thing first. You always want to go with the cool kids because they always get stuff done. So the airborne option for me would be the initial. However, for a prolonged, sustained battle in Iran, and I'm talking about a regime change. I'm talking about a full-on campaign. You're gonna need a lot of people, and the only kids in town, that have that sort of hardware. I'm talking about amphibious landing craft. I'm talking about the ability to put that much stuff on the water. It's the United States. They don't need anybody else, right? Now, let me just let you guys know why this is happening. Can you imagine? With all, look, and I'm not saying it's a negative thing, although, right. How do I say this? If I think something, but I'm not saying it, right, I'll just go with my initial thoughts, okay? I'm not saying this is a negative thing, but the United Kingdom, we have a huge Muslim population. We do. We have an absolutely huge Muslim population. And they're all beautiful. They all pay their taxes. They all assimilate, and they all get on well with the Christian population in the United Kingdom. And everything's fine, okay? Everything's fine, right? if the United Kingdom started to say, we're going to send airstrikes into Iran, we're going to put boots on the ground in Iran, we're going to send the Royal Marines to Iran, what do you think would happen with that Muslim population in the United Kingdom? Like, literally, what do you think they would do? I don't know. Do you think they go out and do you think they go out and peacefully protest and write to their MP? I think they would. I think they would at least. Michael Pickering is saying it's from the saying shots heard around the world Q post. I don't know what that means, mate. Okay, I'm assuming you. Okay, so earlier on, guys, listen. Earlier on, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, earlier on, I was reading Donald Trump's post about the situation in Iran, and Donald Trump was saying, if Iran shots and violently kills an innocent protester or something like that, I was like, well, surely it should be shoots. Surely you can't shot someone. I didn't. I mean, I thought it was a typo, but then it's like the president of the United States, and then I'm starting to think it's a subliminal message. So Michael Pickering is saying it's from the saying "shots heard around the world." I don't know what that means, mate. Honestly, I don't know what that means. Can you give me more context, mate? Because I really want to understand what this is. I don't know. Galloway Raider is saying our huge Muslim population have a few Christians, more like. Get your facts right. I don't know what that means, guys. You're gonna have to give me more context. I feel really stupid today. I feel really stupid. I'm totally missing these things. You're gonna have to give me more context, guys, or maybe I need to drink more beer. Galici. I'm just gonna say this guy's called Christian Galici. Well, they're not Iranians. Didn't come to mind. Right, I'm gone. I can't do any more comments. Guys. I can't do any more comments. Right, you've got to give me... I don't know what you're meaning. I don't know what you mean. What does this mean? Well, they're not Iranians. Didn't come to mind. Look, guys, do I need to be more drunk? Do I need to get the vodka out? I don't know what that means. I really don't. Right. Matt is saying the first shot fired at the Battle of Lexington Concord on April 19, 1775, which started the American Revolutionary War. That doesn't make sense either. That doesn't answer. Right, listen. If you're going to throw things out there, guys, right, and it's going to be cryptic, imagine when you're writing a message, right? Imagine you don't know when you're writing a message on the chat. Imagine when I'm reading it, I don't know what you're thinking. All right, and then read it back, and then think, right, yeah, am I gonna know or not? Because I've just read like 4 or 5 messages, and I've no idea what they mean. But you know what? Band again has thrown one out there, and he's given me one that I definitely do understand. Polar temperature sinking this weekend. It's freezing. Yes, it is. Hang on, let me have a look. I think it might be -1 where I live. No, it's 0. We're at 0. It's definitely going to go to -1 tonight. Yeah, it's going to go to -2 tonight by the beard of Zeus. Wow. Oh, when I get up as well. Oh, God. Yeah, so you guys are asking why I've got this here, right? Because it's bloody 0 degrees outside and it's going to go to -2. Oh, -1 in the bedroom. Yeah, it's -1 here. It's really cold tonight, guys. It's really cold. It is really cold. Right, listen, let's get back on track. Because we are talking about the escalating and spiraling out of control situation in Iran. The United States are threatening intervention. I mean, guys, look, am I fair by saying that? Am I fair saying the United States are threatening intervention? I think I am. They're saying they're locked and loaded, and the United States are ready to rescue these protesters, which would undoubtedly mean boots on the ground in Iran. I've just given you guys a quick synopsis of what that would entail, and the only option for getting masses, getting the amount of hardware, the tonnage of hardware into Iran is the naval option. There's nothing else. So when people are talking about different options and X, Y, and Z, the reality is they need those ships, and it takes time. It really does. It takes time to get all those all that logistics on those ships. Yes, of course, there are strike carrier groups in that region, and there's lots of manpower there, but they don't have the manpower there yet. So what you could see, is some sort of limited military airstrikes, but I don't think that's really going to be able to rescue. And that keyword was, the keyword there really was rescue. They're not going to be able to rescue those people. Again, it depends on your definition of the word rescue. You could argue that if the United States, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, let me be clear, I don't want to get demonetized all the time. What one could argue, and I wouldn't argue this because I've got no opinion, but somebody out there could argue that a rescue package could entail bombing all the leaders of Iran and letting a rebellion take over. That could be argued as that could be argued. Right, let me what else have we got? I've got a few things from right. Has anybody noticed, or is it just me, that there was all sorts of wild stuff happening on New Year's Eve? I think France, I heard a wild statistic about France. Give me a second. Yeah. So this has not been reported in the United Kingdom. So this is from 3 hours ago, and no, not that one. Let me find it. Right. So there were some obscure news articles reporting on the situation in France. New Year's Eve, some are reporting that 1,200 cars were burnt out in France on New Year's Eve. 505 people arrested. Now, this is as per France's Ministry of Internal Affairs statement. 505 people were arrested and 403 were taken into custody in relation to cases of violent. Let me see if I can share this. No. So it does look like France went absolutely crackers. So what has happened? Like, is that a thing now? Is it a thing where you just burn out cars for New Year's Eve? I don't know. Maybe it's part of maybe it's part of French culture now. Maybe it's the new French culture. What should we do this weekend? I don't know. Let us go and have some dried meat and some onions and garlic with my yickle beignet on. Oh no, it is New Year's Eve. Let's go and burn out some cars. I don't see burning out cars as part of French culture. And look, guys, let me be quite clear. I was in France. Last month. I've got like zero problems with the people I met. I thought everybody was kind, everybody was courteous. You know, everybody was as I would have expected on a normal, you know, on speaking to civilized people. So I'm not being, you know, I'm not being overly negative. I'm not being negative at all towards the French, sorry. So I'm just asking a question. What happened to France and France's culture where 1,200 mainstream media reported, not me, guys, I'm not reporting this. In fact, not even mainstream media, where media reports are claiming, I need to caveat this because I don't want to get a video banned, where media reports are claiming that over 1,200 cars were burnt down in France on New Year's Eve. What happened to France? And why are these things not making the mainstream in the United Kingdom? Because that really is a big thing. It is a big thing. Also, there was it looks like there was a fair spate of violence in the United Kingdom on New Year's Eve as well. Something I'm just reading here. 2 arrested after, well, let me share this with you. Let me share this with you so I don't get done for fake news. Two arrested after fatal New Year's Eve stabby. A man and a boy. It's interesting now. Look, so, hang on. A man and a boy have been arrested after a 23-year-old man was fatally stabbed in southeast London on New Year's Eve. Emergency services were called to Grove Street, Deptford. That's a weird name. That's a weird word. Who? Deptford. That's weird. John Temi Pope on Tufu. John Temi Pope on Tufu from Deptford was treated for stab wounds to the chest but died at the scene. Metropolitan Police have said a 17-year-old boy and a 23-year-old man have been arrested on suspicion of murder and remain in police custody. So, first of all, have you noticed how when they're male at 17 they call them a boy, and when you're 15 as a female you call them a woman? I don't know why. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? When the two Afghan men, when the two 17-year-old Afghans did the thing that you know the thing. Okay, right. If you were to think of a crime that two Afghan boys would do to a British girl, what would it be? What would it be? What? Yeah, that thing. So in the headlines, it said, 2 Afghan boys, 17, accused of a 15-year-old woman. I was like, what? What's going on? Right, let me just Google this guy. Let me see if we can get a picture. Oh, give me a second. I'm not going to share this unless I'm confident it's him, because it might be a very common name. I don't know. Yeah, I can't really get a picture. I don't know what he looks like. Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah, definitely got a picture of him. Definitely got a picture of him. Right, okay. So you know when I said that guy's name, right? You know when I said that guy's name? Oh, this is interesting. He's got a Templar t-shirt on. So you know when I said that guy's name, right? Well, it turns out this is him. Pictured man stabbed to death in Lewisham on New Year's Eve, 2 arrested. So this is him. Now I'm pretty sure that's a t-shirt. That's a Templar t-shirt. Let me stop sharing because there's ads there. So give me a second. Guys, I'm doing a bit of research. I'm doing a bit of Raven's real-time research. Yeah, I can't get that bigger. I don't know what that image on his t-shirt was. Anyway, he's clearly a black guy. He's clearly a black that guy, and there's a lot of this, there's a lot of black on black knife crime. You get all these people protesting, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. What about all the black on black crime? You're not bothered about those black lives? Like, what do you actually mean? It's ridiculous. Anyway, right, let me jump back, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Who photoshopped the t-shirt? I don't know who that was. Raven Intelligence Service, RIS. I work for RIS. I work for RIS. So Venacava Red is saying, does that mean something, Venacava Red, in like Latin or something? I don't know. More than 1,000 vehicles set on fire and more than 400 people, more than on fire and more than 400 people, I think that should say in custody. The majority of which, according to sources, are illegal immigrants, were arrested in France. Look, guys, let me just throw this out there, right? This is nothing to do with what the article that we just read there. This is totally separate, ladies and gentlemen. Totally separate on another dimension now. So when I went over to France, the first thing, you can sit and watch things on the TV as much as you want. You never get a feel for that. You never look around and think, oh shit, look at that over there. Oh, look at, literally the first, as soon as I saw that migrant camp, and I was driving around and like looking what's happening, the first thing I thought was, wow, imagine the fear of living around one of these migrant camps. And look, I'm Team GB, I'm Team UK, I'm worried about what happens here first. I'm worried about what happens in my village. I'm worried about what happens in my town. I'm then worried about what happens in my local city. I'm then worried about what happens in my country. I'm then worried about what happens in Europe. I'm then worried about what happens in the world. That's how everybody should think. Like, if you live in a village in Dorchester, your main priority shouldn't be what's happening in Palestine, right? If you live in Bangladesh, you shouldn't really, your first priority should be what's happening there right in front of you, what's going to affect you. Always deal with the problems you face. The first thing I saw one of the first things I noticed when I went to France was the absolute terror these French people must be living under. Can you imagine it? And I know we have it bad here. We do. We have it bad here because this is the final destination, right? And like they can't move on from the United Kingdom. But can you imagine living in France, right? In northern France somewhere near one of these migrant camps. And you've just got these people roaming the streets unchecked at nighttime. Can you imagine if, like, I don't know, like, who you are now watching, but can you imagine if you're a single woman, right? You've got kids, you live in a detached house, and there's 3 migrant camps all around you. And you wake up one morning and there's all these people, they don't speak your language, from Africa, from the Middle East. They're looking through your window. They're not doing anything illegal, right? There's nothing illegal. You can't arrest them. Can you imagine the state of fear these people are in? And I'm talking about the French people now. And I never thought I'd see this dynamic. And then you've got to look at the dynamics of the police. The police out there, the police just want to get as few people in those migrant camps as possible, right? Because the police are under as much strain as everybody else. The police are under strain from their governments. The police are under strain because they want to do the right thing for the community. I'm talking about the French police now. And look, guys, I don't expect the French police to look after the British people. Absolutely not. And if they did, I would question why they were doing that. I would expect the French police to look after the French people and take whatever means necessary to protect those French people. Am I saying anything controversial here, guys? Am I saying anything that anybody finds distasteful? Does anybody, realistically, does anyone think that the French police should look after the British public? Because I don't. Right? I don't. Oh, we're paying them millions. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Those women, those children in France, they don't give a shit. That money we're paying in millions, I would say, is probably being funneled back through NGOs and going straight back to those migrant camps. That's wild speculation. I've got no evidence of that. I just made that up. But it might be true. So take that on board, right? Imagine being that police officer now. You've got a crime rate, which is X, at one of these housing estates in northern France, right? And all of a sudden, 800 migrants want to leave to go to the United Kingdom. What, you're going to say, no, you have to stay here? No, you have to stay there and keep the crime rate this. I don't know if any of these, guys know where I'm going, right? So you've got to understand the dynamics, all right? That's why I always said, as soon as I got to France, the way to stop the boats is to set up an NGO in northern France to counter the other NGOs. And you set up an NGO, and they counter the boats. Yes, controversial because we have paid almost $1 billion. Then let's stop paying. So I asked, so look, so Dave, do you think that money, right, let's just say we pay $1 billion. Let's just say we, like, the UK taxpayers pay £1 billion to France to stop the boats, right? Say it's 100 billion. Say it's 1 trillion. Do you think those police officers are going to get paid anymore? Do you think those police officers are going to get any more money in their bank accounts? Or do you think those police officers are still going to have to deal with those, or do you think those police officers are still going to have to deal with those crimes? And do you think those police officers still have to deal with those women, potentially, allegedly, who've been attacked? The money is not going to those people. The money's not going to the police. The money's not going where it should be. And that's the reality. I've not even had any beer yet. Catalytic Converter is saying, yes, Eyeball Paul, that's the point. If we had illegal immigrants flooding out of the UK to the French coast, would you stop them leaving for France? Or would you? Exactly, Catalytic Converter. Right, what did Eyeball Paul say? I love Eyeball Paul. Where's Eyeball Paul? I can't find his, I don't know. Right. Let's be real. If it was Russians coming across the channel in boats, it would be stopped in a day. That's slightly unfiltered. Right, right. We're going off on a side quest here. Guys, do we continue on the side quest? Do we continue on the side quest, or do we go back to Iran? AJ Aesthetics is saying, Raven, how are you so full of energy twice a day, every day on these lives? It's admirable. I'm mostly drunk most of the time, guys. I'm mostly drunk. When I get up, I'm pretty much drunk. And by 5 o'clock, I'm pretty much drunk. The only time I'm not drunk is when I'm in the gym. So I make my best decisions when I'm when I'm drunk. I've taken more from Brandy than Brandy's taken from me. Iran, as this is the start of what's next. Right, okay. Right, thank you, Rasta Sounds, for bringing me back on track. Okay, so Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining for the first time, if you've just popped on, we have been talking today. We've been talking about the escalating and spiraling out of control situation in Iran. So let me just give you guys some context. I'll give you guys a little bit of a background, and then I will tell you how difficult it is. Excuse me. How difficult it will be to get boots on the ground in Iran. So, first of all this stems right now from Donald Trump. On his Truth Social, I think it was yesterday, it might have been, I can't remember. He did a post and he said, and look, somebody said that there's some sort, I said actually that there's some sort of subliminal message in here, and somebody came up and said something, and I didn't really understand it. So, if anybody can articulate the hidden message in here, please do it, because I am interested. Anyway, Donald Trump posted, if Iran shots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter, DJT. So obviously this should be shoots, and the word and violently kills. I don't know how you don't violently kill someone. Like, is there any way you can like unviolently shoot someone or unviolently kill? I don't know. I don't think there is. But anyway, that's what Donald Trump's saying, not me. So let me just let me jump onto what I was saying earlier, and I'll try and really break this down real quick. So basically, these protests in Iran, they started off like on the 29th. It started off as an economic protest, but it soon turned into a political protest. I am cutting this real short, guys. If you're jumping on for the first time, I did in depth right at the beginning of the live stream. So it started off as a political protest. It's turned political. People are calling for a regime change. People are calling to, they want to get rid of the regime. There's a body count. Civilian protesters have been, they're starting to stack up. At least 8 people have been killed that we know of, and I want to leave that out there. We know of, because we do know that Iran has Iran have a history. They do. Iran have a history of hiding these things, like the 1988 massacres. Now, a key thing for this would be one of the key developments, I think, is the president of Iran coming out calling the grievances legitimate while urging calm. So this is a tactic I think totalitarians use, where they say, "Oh, we understand your problems. We understand. We're going to sort it out." Like Keir Starmer coming out and saying, "I understand you want the hotels closed, and this Labour government will do it." How are you going to do that, Keir? We're going to build new houses for them. No, that's not what we meant. We didn't mean that. We didn't mean that. I told you this was coming, guys. But look, let's stick onto this. So Donald Trump enters. He posts his thing on... you guys have just seen it. He posted on X, which is quite fiery. Now what I've been saying is, for some sort of rescue mission and an actual, and an actual boots on the ground situation, Iran is an absolute fortress. It really is. You've got mountains to the north and west. You've got sea. You've got huge amounts of desert. So any large-scale operation to rescue or support regime change, major intervention, would have to come from the sea. That is the absolute reality. There's no caveats to that. Yes, of course, the United States have the world's biggest, airborne capability. Paratroopers, special forces, air assaults, what are them things? B-22 Ospreys, AC-130s, Chinooks, which are still the daddies. Chinooks are still the daddies, guys. They're still the bad boys. There's never going to be another Chinook. Absolutely beautiful machine. For a continued logistical operation, it's going to have to be from the sea. You're not going to go from Iraq. Can you imagine the logistics you would need to support like maybe 300,000 people? You're driving that through trucks through Iraq? Not a chance. Can you imagine driving it through Afghanistan? Not a chance. So while the airborne option is a thing, I don't see it for a long term. Just think about the logistics you need, guys. All right, you're going to need tanks, you're going to need trucks, you're going to need fuel. Those fueling trucks are also trucks themselves. You're going to need manpower, you're going to need food, you're going to need ammo, you're going to need water. The whole thing. You need a lot of tonnage for these things, and the United States are the only. Literally, the United States are the only people in the world that have that capability. No one else has that capability. And this is like, you know, this is like why I said the United States are going to do this on their own, and they're going to leave the Europeans to deal with the Russians in Eastern Europe, because if the United States get involved in Ukraine, that means some assets are going to be diverted from Iran, and they don't want that, because once you start to dilute your cordial, it's not as potent. That's the reality. CRF is saying, for someone talking about how many different fine aircraft, you haven't mentioned the AC-130, not the AC-130, the A-10 Warthog. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I kind of forgot that. I think they're replacing the A-10 with like some sort of like crop duster or something. So the A-10, it's a beautiful aircraft. It is. It's a close air support aircraft. It's been loved by ground forces around the world. Absolutely. When you guys call in an A-10 Warthog, those things come in. They come in low. They come in slow, and they will stay around. And it's the morale. It's the morale boost when you see that thing flying above you. Galici is saying, well, you need NATO backing. The Guardians of the Revolution will not give up Tehran magically. Unfortunately, NATO's over, ladies and gentlemen. NATO is not worth the paper it is written on. You're going to see this very soon. You're going to see NATO break up. You're going to see you will see something happen. And the United States will say, yeah, we're good. We're not playing those games. We ain't playing those games. And then you will see the Europeans, led by the United Kingdom, have to take up those, take up those strings. So, Galici, I don't know if you've been following my videos for a while or not, but Galici, what I've been saying is, us Europeans need to pull our big boy pants on. And when I do a side-by-side comparison between Russian forces and NATO forces, I always leave out America, because America are not going to get involved in Europe. God's Little Helper is saying Russia took parts of an American drone to an American consulate that tried to kill Putin in residence. Okay, so there's no such... Okay, I don't feel that information is credible. Where did you get that information from? You know, literally, where did you get that? Where did you get that information from? I don't know if it's credible. I would say it's not credible. Age Aesthetics is saying, what do you think about members of special forces being investigated for war crimes from years and years ago? It's like Starmer wants all the military to lose trust in him and his government. Well, how do I put this? Some military units need to operate with impunity. Some military units, not all of them, some military units need to be able to operate without the fear of... Can you imagine it, right? Can you imagine you're in this situation, right? You're in this situation, and this is what happens with the Russians. This is what happens with the Russians as well. So can you imagine you're in this situation where you're in a bunker, right? You're in a bunker, and somebody says to you, they say, AG Aesthetics, go and take your guys out for a patrol, right? Make sure you eliminate all the bad guys. However, if you do it and infringe their human rights, you'll go to jail. But if you don't do it efficiently, they will transcend you to a beam of light. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to go, oh, yeah, I'm just going to stay here, actually. I'm literally just going to stay here. I'm not going to go out of my bunker and risk not going back to my family. And even if I do get back to my family and I've, infringed on someone's human rights, I'm going to go to jail. So they're just not going to work. Now, this has happened with the Russians. It has absolutely happened with the Russians. So what happens in Russia, right? We get so the Russians, they operate on this we are never defeated, we have death or glory, we will never surrender, we will push forwards until dying man, we will destroy capitalist pig. So you get that rhetoric from Russia, right? And it sounds intimidating until you see the reality. Literally, until you see the reality. So the reality of that rhetoric is when your commanders tell you, okay, let's get AJ back up. AJ Aesthetics, you need to go on patrol with your men. If you come under enemy contact, you will destroy all enemy, or you come back not hero. You do not come back at all. Like, what are you going to do, AJ Aesthetics? Are you going to take your guys out on a patrol, knowing that if you come under overwhelming firepower, you have to keep moving forwards? No, of course not. Of course you're not going to do that. You're going to sit in your trench, you're going to sit in your bunker and just literally wait for something to happen. And that's what's happening now. That's why the battlefield is stagnant in the west, in eastern Ukraine. Now, the NATO way of doing things is you empower your junior commanders, you power your NCOs, you empower your junior commanders at section, at platoon, at company level. Maybe not even at company level, because that's more like a battalion asset. So you say to you, so rather than having all these Russians, I am Russian, I will never defend, I will never back down, I will fight until last man for Mother Russia. Rather than doing that, because those guys have got families, right? I for Mother Russia, I take 4 inches of ground and then Yuri give it back. It makes no sense. You've got to understand these guys that are in the trenches, right? They've got families, they've got wives, they've got kids. They don't want to go and risk not coming back. It's absurd. So they just sit there doing nothing. Now, the NATO way of working is, right, lads, can you go out on a patrol, go up in this area, let me know what happened. So the guys go out on a patrol, they come under contact, they take the contact, they put suppressing fire down, they can't win the firefight, they decide to withdraw. Absolutely fine. It's a bit gay, but it's absolutely fine. In fact, it's very gay. It's totally gay, all right? But, it happens. It's better to have your blokes than not have your blokes. They get back, they debrief their boss. The boss is like, fucking hell, AJ Aesthetics, what happened? Oh, mate. Honestly, we got up to that ridge line. We got opened up on the right flank. I think it was heavy machine gun fire. I think it was Dushka. They may have had some 7.62 machine guns as well. I don't think they were tripod mounted. How many were there? I don't know. Maybe there were definitely 3 gun posts. I don't know how many people. Yeah, no worries, mate. Write it up in a patrol report and get your lads to get their heads down. Guess what? It's a win-win for everyone. That patrol goes out. They have contact with the enemy. They decide they can't move forward because they're under overwhelming firepower. So they make a tactical withdrawal. They get back. They tell their superiors. They understand where the bad guys are now. They found them. They're going to fix them and they're going to destroy them. That's the NATO way of operating. It is superior. Don't get me started on conscripts versus trained soldiers, because look, guys, when I give you guys this, when I give you guys this this information, look how granular it is. Look how I'm going down to everything. All right, and people are, oh, Sean, you don't know what you're talking about. I really do. I really do. Leanne is saying, what countries will side with Russia, in your opinion, Sean? Ones that are currently in NATO. I don't think any countries can side with Russia that are in NATO. None. I mean, you've got Hungary that's a little bit pro-Russian, but they can't really, they can't, none really. I mean, no, none, none. Nobody could side with Russia. It would be a financial nightmare for them, because what happens is they don't have time to do it, basically. So what happens is when you become part of NATO, you have to buy NATO weapons, right? So you have to buy NATO weapons. And they would just stop selling to them. So they would find themselves, literally, they would disarm themselves. Dave is saying Turkey. Yeah, I always forget Turkey's a member of NATO. Turkey's a member of NATO. So Turkey, and I know India is not a member of NATO, but Turkey, when we're talking about global conflicts, right, I always say Turkey and India, I don't know what's going off with Turkey and India. Honestly, they're like the aces in the room. They're like the wild cards. Turkey and India are wild cards. Ruben with a Star of David, I think. Is that a Star of David? Can a Star of David be like that? You know how there's a like interlocking. Is that Star of David or is that something else? Trouble is, I think I can do it. Got into a brawl with 4 migrant shoplifters. Oh no! A few days before Christmas, was panting like a Grand National horse by the end of it. Everybody get your fitness up, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody needs to get their fitness up. Fitness up. UK citizens might side with Russia. Yeah, I know that. A lot of people do feel like that. Right. So there's some wild comments on this. There's some wild comments on this chat right now. Right. Listen, guys. Oh, hang on. Mike Millman is saying NATO is how the elites make so much money of weapon sales. The elites start all the wars. I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna go into this because I go into this quite often. It's true and it's not true in the same sense. Yes, people make a lot of money off wars, but people make a lot of money off people make a lot of money off car sales. Is there a conspiracy to say that there's a big there's some sort of car sales conspiracy? Nicola is saying we are being replaced. The rescue narrative, the theory is that the Iranian people's uprising is the trigger needed for a broader global transition by saying the United States will come to the rescue. Look, guys, let me share this with you. Douche. So we've just been talking about DJT. We've just been talking about DJT, and I just want to share this because I've been saying that this is coming for such a long time, and it's the end game for the United States. And I know I've done videos before this, but if you guys can look on that, I'm sharing you. If you guys can look there, September the 28th, I did a video. And I know I've done videos before this, but on September the 28th, 2024, I did a video and everybody was talking about Iraq. Everybody was talking about what's happening in Iraq and the embassy in Iraq. And I said, remember, Trump will invade Iran. All paths lead to war. Global conflict on an industrial scale. Well, that aged well, didn't it? Ravens coats caught fire. Not yet, good sir. Not yet, good sir. Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. I am going to start to close this down again. The crux of this live stream has, in fact, let me see if there's been any breaking news since we've been on. No. No, nothing. So the crux of this live stream has been the situation in Iran, the escalating and spiraling out of control situation on the ground in Iran. Trump's rhetoric saying that they're going to rescue, they're going to send in some sort of rescue mission. The whole situation, as far as I'm concerned, and look, I've been saying this since at least September, whatever the video, I can't remember. Was it September the 28th, 2024? At least. All the stuff I say is on public record. Diversions, all right? The United States. And you know what? It's actually even funnier because last week, before this uprising even started, on the chat, people were saying, oh, we haven't got any, why is the United States leaving? Why is the United States not interested in Ukraine? I was like, the United States are going into Iran. Iran wasn't even on the radar. And then literally like a week later or something, we've got Donald Trump saying he's going to get boots on the ground in a rescue mission in Iran. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. As always, you guys have been, I love Yuri Bezmenov. Oh, you got me there. You got me. I love Yuri Bezmenov. You know what you know when you're teaching, I don't know if any of you guys teach. You know when you're teaching and somebody hits a topic that you really want to talk about and you're like, no, I can't hit on Yuri Bezmenov. But you know what? I've done lots of videos on Yuri Bezmenov. He's fantastic. He talks about subversion. He talks about how to subvert a nation. And I think everybody should go and watch some Yuri Bezmenov. Templar Sherry Hep is saying, good night all, stay safe and get prepping. I think we've just turned into a prepping channel, haven't we? So do you know what? I will go with that. I will replicate what Templar Sherry Hep is saying. And I will say, good evening, everyone. Listen, guys, if you've not done so already, and if you're on now and you've not done so, make sure you hit those buttons below. The like, follow, comment, subscribe. Really helps me out when you guys do that. I'll be back on tomorrow morning. I'll be as energetic as always. I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 10 and 8 and 10 and 8 and 10 and 8. And if not, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you good evening. And as Templar Sherry is saying, good night, all stay safe. And it is cold. Be conscious of the cold. Don't get yourself caught out. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, good night and good evening.